Most people didn't notice her. That was her superpower. Every Tuesday, just before 8 a.m., Maya Wilson walked through the steel back entrance of Carter Keene Corp., the skyscraper that glimmered like a polished sword over downtown Chicago. There were no gold accents or velvet rugs where she entered. No doorman offering greetings or espresso in porcelain cups. Just cold tile underfoot and a silent elevator that didn't even have a mirror. She liked it that way. In her hands, a cardboard tray with 6 paper cups, each labeled in black Sharpie. 2 black, no sugar. 3 with almond milk. 1 double espresso. No mistakes. Never any mistakes. Maya didn't need to glance at the labels. She knew the orders by heart. Just like she knew that if she stepped out of line, spoke too loudly, lingered too long, wore the wrong smile, she'd be escorted right back down the service elevator. Out of sight. Out of mind. The top-floor boardroom always smelled like polished wood and power. 7 men and 1 woman sat around a long glass table, their Rolexes catching the morning light like status beacons. Their conversations bounced off the walls. Mergers, market forecasts, offshore assets. The kind of talk that made people millions while others carried coffee. As Maya placed each cup in front of them, she could feel it. That prickle behind the ears. Not fear. Awareness. Someone was watching. Mr. Hale. Those shoes, Hale said with a slow shake of his head, as if he were commenting on a painting that offended him. You wearing those on purpose, or are you trying to make a statement? The others chuckled. Low, smug. Maya's sneakers were simple, worn-out black Converse, clean but undeniably scuffed. She'd had them for years. They'd survived rainstorms, rent hikes, and more rejection emails than she could count. And now, they were a joke. You wear those to your high school graduation too? Hale asked, tipping his espresso cup like a toast. Another laugh. She didn't answer. Just placed the last coffee in front of him, gave a tight-lipped nod and turned. But in her pocket, her fingers moved subtly, checking a silent phone screen. The live ticker blinked in real time. The stock transfer was about to finalize. Maya had never raised her voice, never pushed back, never asked why she was still temporary staff after 12 years. But that morning, the quiet one in the sneakers was holding something none of them saw coming. Power. They just didn't know it yet. She stepped backward toward the glass wall, phone still in her pocket, and looked out over the skyline. She saw her reflection in the window, blurry, ghost-like, and felt a flicker of something unfamiliar. Not nervousness, not revenge, something closer to arrival. She had been walking these halls for more than a decade, filing papers no one read, organizing cabinets no one opened, fetching coffees for men who didn't know her last name. And yet she remembered everything, every whisper, every denied promotion, every joke about cultural fit. Behind her, the boardroom murmurs continued. Probably applied for the front desk once, one of them said, not even bothering to whisper. She's lucky she has a job at all, another added. The woman in the gray suit, Janine, VP of Compliance, didn't join in, but she didn't stop it either. She stared blankly into her tablet, pretending not to hear. They didn't know that the woman they were laughing at had already shifted the tectonic plates beneath them. The door behind her opened with a click. She turned. Silence. Footsteps echoed down the long carpet. Not rushed, not uncertain. Intentional. The kind of footsteps that made rooms go still. Andrew Lan. A billionaire with shark eyes and a reputation for buying entire companies before breakfast. He never attended meetings without a calendar invite. Never surprised people. But today, he walked into the room like it already belonged to someone else. "Where is Maya Wilson?" he asked. For a moment, the room froze. Then Hale let out a single dry laugh and gestured lazily with his espresso cup. Probably in the hallway, waiting to wipe the table." But Lan didn't smile. He didn't even blink. He turned and looked directly at her. Maya raised her hand. Slowly, the billionaire strode across the room, a thick envelope in his hand, and placed it gently in front of her. "Miss Wilson," he said clearly, voice cutting through the air like a scalpel. "On behalf of MU Holdings, congratulations. Effective as of 7:59 this morning, you are now the majority shareholder of Carter Keene Corporation. 51%. No one spoke. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Someone at the table, maybe Janine, dropped a pen. It clattered against the glass like a gunshot. Hale opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Maya stepped forward. Calm, straight-backed. She reached into her satchel, pulled out a sleek black laptop and placed it on the table. As the screen lit up, she plugged it into the conference monitor. The Carter Keene logo disappeared, replaced by a simple slide. Phase 1. Reorganization. Then she looked at each of them, one by one. Steady. Measured. "I believe we have a lot to do," she said, her voice as composed as an anchor drop. "So let's begin." She sat, not in the corner, not by the wall, at the head of the table, and only then did she kick off her sneakers, placing them neatly beside her chair. "Consider them a reminder," she said with the smallest hint of a smile. "They walked these floors before any of you knew who I was, and they'll stay here, just like me." No one dared to speak. A name can be armor, a wall, a weapon. For Maya Wilson, it was all three. MU Holdings, the mysterious investment group that had been slowly acquiring Carter Keene shares over the last 8 months, had become a constant whisper in the boardroom. No one knew where it came from. No one asked, because in places like Carter Keene, power is respected, not questioned. But MU didn't stand for Morgan Universal or Metropolitan United, as the theories had suggested. It stood for Maya Ulissa, her middle name, the one no one at the company even knew. 12 years ago, Maya walked through Carter Keene's doors as a temp in the basement archives, the kind of job that came with no desk and no email address. Her badge said provisional. Her co-workers didn't bother to learn her name. She organized hundreds of boxes that year. Legal files, vendor logs, internal complaints. She read everything, and with every document she touched, she understood the company better. Not just how it worked, but how it protected those who ran it. She stayed quiet. When her role ended, she applied for a full-time position. They gave her one, in logistics, then later reception. When she asked about advancement, they smiled, said she was an asset to the team. Then they passed her over. Not once, not twice, 12 times, 12 applications, 12 polite rejections, always with the same sentence. "You are a strong contributor, but not the right cultural fit for leadership." Cultural fit. She heard those 2 words in her sleep, so she started building something they couldn't fit her out of. At night, she logged into an online MBA program under her alias, MU, and studied until her eyes blurred. Strategy, M&A law, shareholder rights, market mechanics. She paid for it herself. Every tuition installment chipped away from her paycheck. She'd skip lunches, walk instead of ride, cut her budget down to the bone. And then, one October evening, while delivering coffee to an investor summit at the company's hotel affiliate, she met Andrew Lan. He didn't remember her. Not then, but she remembered him. Not for his billions, but for the fact that he asked for an extra coffee, looked her in the eyes, and thanked her by name. The only one who ever had. That night, she sent an anonymous email to Lan's office. Short, precise, a business opportunity, high-potential asset available for discreet acquisition. Attached, a one-page report on Carter Keen's internal weakness, its fragmented stock structure, vulnerable board. Signed, M.U. Weeks passed. No reply. Until one morning, an email came through. No greeting, no signature, just a question. How do you plan to secure control? And that's how it started. Maya didn't just send him her ideas. She sent projections, maps. She'd spent years inside the machine. She knew where the pressure points were. She named departments where turnover was highest, subsidiaries most undervalued, which board members were most likely to sell if approached through an intermediary. Lan didn't just agree, he invested. Together, they created MU Holdings, headquartered offshore, with Maya as the silent lead. Every acquisition moved through agents, silent partners, former classmates from her online cohort, and even retired employees who'd left Carter Keen bitter and broke. Within 5 months, they held 30%. The board panicked. Analysts couldn't trace the buyers. Hale called it a hostile shadow, and the company scrambled to implement defensive measures. Too late. Because by then, Maya had already begun the final phase. She approached the last cluster of minority shareholders, quiet retirees with little loyalty and even less interest in corporate politics. Through her agents, she offered buyouts well above market value, and on a rainy Tuesday morning, the final shares cleared escrow. She refreshed her screen, 51.2%, and she smiled. But the numbers weren't the win. The win was knowing that all those nights of staring at job boards, of holding back tears in supply closets, of watching interns she trained become her bosses, they meant something now. The win was silence. When she walked into that boardroom, every seat was hers, even the ones that had laughed. They thought they knew her. The woman with the coffee. The one who nodded and left the room without a sound. They saw sneakers and silence, not strategy. But what they never asked was how she got there, or how long she'd been watching. Maya Wilson started at Carter Keen when she was 22, fresh out of state college. Degree in business admin, minor in statistics. Hope still warm in her chest. She thought it would be temporary. A foot in the door. The kind of role that came with possibilities. Instead, it came with a key card that didn't open the good elevators. Her first job? Cataloging physical records in a basement so deep, cell service didn't reach. No sunlight, no visitors. But the documents? Oh, they came daily. Shipment logs, internal memos, old HR reviews. She didn't just organize them, she read them. And by the time she'd finished her second year, Maya Wilson knew more about the internal workings of Carter Keen than most mid-level executives did. But knowledge didn't equal access, and it never bought her a seat. She applied for her first promotion in year 3, logistics coordinator, a step up, an email away from the executive floor. Her manager, a man named Phelps, called her into the break room to deliver the news in person, not because it was respectful, but because he wanted to soften the blow with a smile and a muffin. "You're sharp, Maya," he'd said, tearing a blueberry muffin in half. "But this role's a culture fit thing, you understand." Culture fit. It became the company's go-to phrase. She collected the rejections like scars. Always the same praise. Punctual, detail-oriented, reliable. Always the same conclusion, not quite leadership material. By year 6, she stopped correcting people when they called her intern. By year 8, they stopped calling her anything at all. And through it all, Maya watched the elevators rise. She saw interns become assistants, assistants become associates, associates become directors, most of them fresh out of Ivy League programs, most of them younger, all of them whiter. She trained 3 of them, and when they passed her in the halls a year later, expensive watches, new titles, they barely nodded. 12 applications, 12 rejections. The last one hit hardest. She'd applied to be a junior analyst, a job she could do in her sleep, one she'd already been quietly doing whenever someone accidentally left spreadsheets open near her desk. She'd even written an optimization report that cut inventory costs by 6%. She knew it was good. They knew it too. But the email still came in. "We appreciate your continued interest in Carter Keen's growth, but after careful consideration..." She didn't cry. Not then. Instead, she walked into the server closet, shut the door, and opened her laptop. She re-logged into her business school portal under the name MU, a name no algorithm could trace, a name not connected to her HR file, her race, her face, or her past. And she started building a new future from scratch. By year 10, Maya was fluent in financial modeling, risk strategy, hostile takeover law. By year 11, she was already moving through Carter Keen's public records, flagging undervalued assets, identifying strategic vulnerabilities, writing memos for a firm she hadn't even created yet. And by year 12, she was making deals at midnight under an alias that the Boardroom had whispered about for weeks. MU Holdings. It wasn't just a company. It was the sound of every no she'd swallowed, turning into something harder, sharper. It was hers. And now, she sat at the head of the table in the room that once sent her out for espresso, not to serve, but to lead. She reached down beside her chair, picked up her old sneakers, and placed them on the table like a relic. "For memory," she said. Hale, still red-faced, opened his mouth to speak, but she held up one finger. Not to shush, to pause. And then she said the words no one expected from the girl with the coffee tray. "You all had 12 chances to see me. You didn't. This is what the 13th looks like." She opened her laptop again. "Next item, executive restructuring.